Dude, so I had a long ride home yesterday, and I listened to Monday and Wednesday's PMT and thoroughly enjoyed it. But the conversation with Florio was really interesting because obviously Florio is I don't even think he would question this, but he's a pot stirrer. Like that,
Yes.
it's one thing he does, and he does it really well. But it's interesting to hear him kind of talk about the quarterback scenario because B and I talked about this at length when the Trevor Lawrence contract came down. How much of quarterbacks have to be paid the top of the market no matter what? Do you kind of think as a result of how Bruce Allen and Dan Snyder handled Kirk Cousins going back 10 years ago?
Mhm.
I actually think that there's a straight line to that. There really is, because the way that they screwed that up was just, it was unbelievable. And now you live in fear of losing who might be your guy, and then having to settle for the unknown, which a lot of times could be worse than having your guy. I think, so when we talked about like the different guy tiers, which we're experts at in Chicago and in New York, we know that more than most fan bases, I would say. You've got the guy, and he's the guy at the top. You know when you've got the guy. Patrick Mahomes is the guy. Josh Allen is the guy. Joe Burrow is the guy. And then one step below that is your guy, and we say he's our guy. You know, we went through our guy with Kirk Cousins for a little bit. It's like, yeah, he's not the guy, but he's our guy. And then right below that is, we're not sure if he's the guy, but we'll see. Maybe this year we get the weapons around him. That's stage one of guy bargaining. That's when you're kind of guy curious, is what I like to call it at that point. And it's not a good place to be. I would say those two stages are bad, because when you have a quarterback that you know isn't the guy, then you can, make plans and figure out the best way to move forward. But like last year for a little bit, Sam Howell was like, he was almost our guy for a little bit, and then things kind of fell off the rails a little. But we're very experienced in having a guy that we're not totally sure is the guy, and then deluding ourselves into thinking that he's our guy. So with Trevor Lawrence, I think Jacksonville fans love him. I think he's worth way more to the Jaguars than he is to any other team, which is it's an interesting scenario that you find yourself in if you're a GM, because yes, if he hit the open market, he would not command. I don't think he commanded the type of money that he's getting from Jacksonville, but it's like he's worth more to you guys because he's been there for a couple of years. He knows the team, knows the system, knows the city. It's a weird scenario where you almost have to pay a quarterback, but when you find yourself having that discussion where it's like, yeah, I guess we have to pay him, it never works out well in the long term. I can't think of a single time that we've had a quarterback that's going into like maybe a year, maybe 2 years left, and they get an extension because they have to, and it turns out good. I feel like more teams should be more willing to cut bait with a quarterback that's kind of in, we call it purgatory, which is like right in between two of those stages. But at the same time, like if you're a Jaguars fan and they don't extend Trevor Lawrence, then you know what that does? It makes the next like year of all the news surrounding your team. When are they going to get the Trevor Lawrence deal done? Why haven't they got it done yet? And then that can be definitely a distraction at that point.
I think it'd be a distraction. I think when the team, the actual team, is looking at how the club handles the quarterback, and a lot of times those teams,
like the other players on the team,
they're the rest of the players on the team. So when they see a guy that the team has been telling them he's the guy, now it comes up. It's a fine line. They stop believing in him, it's over. Or does the club have to do it sometimes just in case if the team gets behind him, they may play a little better. You never know. But ultimately, I just think that it happens like that because when your team don't believe in the quarterback, especially if the front office doesn't, the people in the locker room won't believe in him as well.
Yeah, and if you don't extend, going back to the Kirk Cousins situation here in DC, that was like almost Bruce and Dan just like being very, very what's the word for it? They were just procrastinating. They were really good at procrastinating. They didn't want to make a decision, so they're like, "Oh, we'll figure this out later," which is very relatable as somebody that loves to put stuff off into the last second. Probably not the best way to run an NFL franchise. It's just keep kicking that can down the road because at the same time you're paying a guy a lot of money. We ended up paying Kirk a decent amount of money. while still sending a message to him and to the rest of the team that we're not going to trip over ourselves to give contract extensions to our good players.
Right. And I mean, I think you see it with Kirk in Minnesota. Like, they offered him a good deal, but it was only 1 year guaranteed. I think you're kind of seeing it right now with Tua in Miami. I wonder if Dallas isn't kind of going through, man, is Dak really going to ever get us over the hump? Do we have to pay this dude $60 million or whatever the number might become? It's fascinating. And I think the worst case of when teams get into this mindset, I'm going to change sports, but when teams get into this mindset of, oh, well, we've got no other choice. That's how John Wall and Brad Beal got Supermax contracts. Because it's like, oh, you know, these are our homegrown guys. We have to do it. And I just think it's a flaw in the system, man.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. And I'm very much looking forward to the discourse around Dak for the next year. And then you can just pencil that in to open up every episode of First Take for the next 365 days. Just talk about Dak's contract. And then also every time a quarterback gets a big payday, you look at who the highest paid players in the league are, and you're like, where's Patrick Mahomes? Why isn't he on this list? Right. So I don't know if they're going to redo that contract at some point.
Josh Allen too.
They probably will. Those guys, but you got Pat makes so much money off the field right now.
Mm-hmm.
He's not forced by it because his own comments were, some people want to be the highest paid. I'm trying to win rings.
Yeah, what the Chiefs really should do is they should try to focus all their marketing energy into Brittany Mahomes and try to grow her brand. I know she's doing skincare routine stuff. Make her get obscenely wealthy like Giselle got, and then that way you don't have to pay Patrick Mahomes as much money because his wife is bringing home more bacon than he is. That's what Taylor should have done. Taylor Swift should have just told Travis, "Don't worry about it, Travis. Take a cap-friendly deal. I got you. I'm going to add an extra 25% to that prenup whenever we get around to signing that." So that's really the life hack. I don't know if we can set Jaden Daniels up with Melinda Gates, or that to me feels like it. We gotta think like 3 steps ahead right now. Jeff Bezos' ex-wife.
What's Steve Jobs' widow's name? Because she actually she might live in DC, dude.
Well, there you go. Yeah, we could do that. Or I think it's Mackenzie Bezos, right? She's like the richest woman in the world because she got half of the Bezos fortune during the divorce. Let's get those two together, and then that way we can just get by on a league minimum salary for Jaden, and we'll be good to go.
Melinda Gates is 59, but she's holding it together pretty well. What was Bezos? Mackenzie Bezos?
Yeah, Mackenzie Bezos. Buddy, you can hold it together.
You can just rebuild it.
You rebuild everything.
Dolly Parton. Let's get Dolly to DC. I kind of like the sound of that.
Mackenzie Bezos, much younger, 54, and whether rebuilt or holding it together, that'll work. All right, that's a great idea. You're thinking 5 steps ahead.
I'm going to try to set them up. I'm going to see what I can do. I think I'm trying to do like the 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon. How far away am I from Mackenzie Bezos? It's probably like, let's see. I know the Emir of Qatar. So he knows good. Mohammed bin Salman, who hacked into Jeff Bezos' phone to get his nudes. So I think I could probably get Mackenzie's number from MBS, from Saudi Arabia. I'll even do a deal with the Live Tour. I will sign up to be a Live Tour influencer and go out there and talk about how great the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is if Mohammed bin Salman can get me in touch with Mackenzie Bezos to set her up with Jaden Daniels. That's how dedicated I am.
That is true dedication. Apparently, Steve Jobs' widow is dating Adrian Fenty, former mayor.
That's been a while. That's been going on for a while.
So I take it back. But she is in D.C. Just saying, Jaden might be the new. I don't know. He might be the new mayor of D.C.
Well, I'm gonna just take that completely off. No, we don't want that happening.
We're thinking outside the box here, but credit to us for trying to figure out what the new money ball is.
Yeah, for sure, dude. How much? B and I were just talking about this. A lot of thinking this team can be better this year is that ideally there's just better coaching and better in-game adjustments. We talked a lot about the defense. PFT, how do you feel about Kingsbury and the staff that's been put together and all the focus on developing a quarterback the right way?
Well, I know he loves to pass the ball. If you look at what he did with Kyler Murray in Arizona, I was reading some stats on him the other day. I think he has, if you're just going based off like fantasy numbers for quarterbacks, He has the highest number of fantasy points per drop back at the quarterback position, I think, of any offensive coordinator in the NFL during his tenure there. So, or as a head coach, he would have had the highest points per drop back. So he's going to let Jaden run. He's going to let Jaden throw it deep. And, there are going to be some weird plays in there. He likes to noodle around a little bit and try some stuff that might be on the experimental side. But I think it's going to be just like a very, very aggressive offense. And we're going to find out pretty quickly, I think, whether or not we've got the guy. And so I like that. I think with a dynamic quarterback like that, that's exactly what you have to do. And then, you know what? You fast forward a year or two, if Cliff Kingsbury becomes a head coach because he does such a great job as a coordinator, then that's a great problem that we're going to have. And I know it kind of stinks if you lose coordinators to head coaching positions, but that's kind of the nature of the beast. And I think we would all take that. Now, Cliff, I think, has proven himself to be a really, really, really good offensive coordinator. Some people are great coordinators and they're not great head coaches. That might be the case with Cliff. I mean, on the defensive side, like Wade Phillips, great defensive coordinator,
Sure,
not a great head coach. Spagnuolo, great defensive coordinator, not a great head coach.
yeah.
Offensively, it's the same way too. It doesn't always translate that way. So have a great offense coordinator, and I think that we're going to find out sooner rather than later about Jaden because of the system that he runs.
I agree.
Go ahead.
No, go.
I'm just wondering, what is your realistic expectation for this team this year?
Okay, well, I'm not a very realistic person, so
I need you to be realistic on this one.
Okay, all right, I'll try. I remember last year when we went through the schedule when it came out, and I think I had like 6 ties at the end of the year for us. I think 7 wins. I think 7 to 8 wins realistically would be a decent result, depending obviously on how a lot of things look. But I think it wouldn't be insane to think that we could get a wild card this year. I don't think we're going to get 10-digit wins. I would love to be wrong about that, but we have a lot of stuff. We got a young
Did you just
team.
say 10-digit wins?
Oh, sorry, double-digit.
We damn straight we're gonna get 10-digit wins.
I don't even know what that is. Now we're getting into McKinsey Bezos numbers here with all this stuff. But yeah, I think we could be competing for wild card. But if I'm being realistic, I'm thinking like I'll say 8 and 9 sounds like a realistically optimistic outlook for this year, because we do have a lot of young talent. It's the first year for a lot of guys, not just on the team, on the coaching staff as well. So there's going to be some changes. There's going to be some growing pains, and as long as we can trend in the right direction, I could see myself being happy with an 8-win season.